Hello, this is Colin, welcoming you to the 2196th edition of the Enfield Talking newspaper, Dateline 4th of July 2019. The readers this week are Geoffrey, Joan and Colin, with Hass and on the controls. The editor was Phillip, and the production and distribution team is Alan and Ali. Our title music is Country Rock Polka, composed by Pat Prelly, Fernand Bouillon, Harry Brewer, and performed by Jean-Jacques Perry, and is used with his kind permission. The local news stories that we will be reading come from the Enfield Independent and Enfield Dispatch and are their copyright. The lead story this week: hundreds of homes set for tube station sites. Before the news, we have the sunrise and sunset times for the week beginning 8th of July and are sunrise at 4:53 and sunset at 21:18. Do get in touch with us to share your own news and special announcements. We love to hear from you. If you have any comments about the Enfield Talking newspaper, please phone Diane de Jersey on 020 8805 6578. She is your listener's representative and will be pleased to help you. Now Joan will read the first item of local news.
This is an article about the, hundreds of homes that could be built at tube stations in Enfield to ease the capital's housing shortage. Plans drawn up by Transport for London, TfL, could see 400 homes built at Cockfosters and 150 at Arnos Grove Underground stations, alongside new commercial and public spaces. The schemes form a wider house-building project that aims to provide 3,000 homes at TfL-owned sites across London, with a minimum of 40% classed as affordable. But while building on brownfield sites would help protect undeveloped land, the plans also mean the station's commuter car parks could be lost. The proposals are still in the early stages of development and would eventually need to be approved by Enfield Council's Planning Committee. Major housing schemes have also been unveiled for High Barnet and Finchley Central tube stations. The Enfield homes, provided by property firm Granger, would be rented out rather than sold. As well as providing money to invest in the transport network, TfL says the schemes would help encourage a shift to more sustainable modes of public transport and car-free developments. The Mayor of London's New London Plan states that almost 1,900 homes need to be built in Enfield every year during the next decade, almost 4 times the current rate of house building. Enfield Council's local plan prioritises already developed brownfield sites, such as transport hubs, but does not rule out building on a small segment of green belt. Both underground stations would remain open during construction. Graham Craig, Director of Commercial Development at TfL, said, "Build to rent is a really exciting programme, and we're thrilled at the prospect of working with Granger plc to build the homes that our city desperately needs. It provides us with an unrivalled opportunity to develop affordable, high-quality homes at pace, including at Cockfosters and Arnos Grove, while also generating significant ongoing revenue to reinvest into the transport network." TfL said it is keen to hear the views of the local communities and allow them to contribute to the development of the proposals. More information about the projects can also be found at the websites www.cockfostersconsultation.com and www.arnersgroveconsultation.com by emailing kharris@councillocoms.com or by calling 020 3890 7318.
A charity opens a community cafe, and that's the headline from the July issue of Enfield Dispatch. Founder Harriet Piercy says everyone is welcome to come and have a cuppa. Zebra's Children and Adults charity is pleased to announce the opening of a new community cafe in Ponders End. The cafe aims to support students and adults who have disabilities with meaningful supported employment opportunities, and the project has been fully funded by the National Lottery Community Fund. Both the Mayor of Enfield, Kate Anolu, and Enfield Council leader Nezel Kalinski attended our launch party last month, together with councillors Rick Jewell and Gina Needs. All were impressed with the new initiative. Following the opening of the cafe, Councillor Kaliskan congratulated us on our successful lottery funding and stated on social media that those running the project are absolute heroes. We're pleased to have informed valuable partnerships with local needs schools and equals an integrated learning disability service to provide students and adults with disabilities to have the chance to gain voluntary experience, which is, of course, meaningful to them. The cafe serves low-cost food and is a great place for our community to meet, come together and tackle the effects of isolation in the community. And she goes on to say, I'd like to thank National Lottery players for making our project possible. We are really making a huge difference to the lives of many people thanks to lottery funding. The Zebras Community Cafe is open every Friday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. during term time, and it's hosted by Ponders End Community Development Trust at Vincent House in Nags Head Road. Please do come along, everyone is welcome. If you would like to find out more about the charity and the work we're doing in the community, then please take time to visit the website.
Protecting the rich heritage, preserving historic buildings in a time of growth. A plan has been drawn up to protect the rich heritage of all of Enfield's cultures during a time of unprecedented growth. Making Enfield, the council's new heritage strategy sets out how the council will preserve the historic buildings, parks and other assets in the borough as pressure for new developments continues to grow. The strategy will link to Enfield's local plan, which sets out a framework for development, and it will be key to attracting funding aimed at preserving the borough's heritage. Enfield's rich history has produced a range of famous landmarks, including Capel House, Forty Hall and Broomfield House. But the borough faces mounting pressure to build new homes and commercial spaces as its population expands rapidly. The heritage strategy will help to ensure new developments are in keeping with the character of their surroundings. Councillors discussed the strategy at a local plan cabinet subcommittee on Thursday, the 27th of June. Cabinet Member for Finance, Councillor Mary Maguire, said it is not just about older buildings, it is about other types of heritage, the industrial heritage we have, and all the people who have come to the borough to make their home here. I think this document will allow us to look at all the different cultures and heritage we have in Enfield. Councillor George Sava, Cabinet Member for Licensing and Regulatory Services, said the council should consider building on the green belt. He said, "We are a growing borough where the population is rising all the time. We should consider things that a few years ago we thought impossible." There will also be a focus on protecting heritage assets against environmental crime. Council leader, Councillor Nezel Kaliskan, said, "We are very lucky, both in terms of the assets we have as a borough, but also in terms of open spaces, for example. Given we are about to embark on a period of growth, it is really important that we have got growth for the borough that is controlled and shaped for the benefit of local people." The subcommittee agreed to adopt the new heritage strategy, which runs up to 2024.
This article is headed "Blooming Marvellous." Bowling Club helps bring life to disused horse trough. Horses are rarely seen now on roads, but were once a common sight. Cars have replaced carts and carriages. Petrol stations have replaced drinking troughs. In Enfield Borough, there are still 9 drinking troughs that remain from the days when horse riding was commonplace. Since they are not now needed for horses, they have been planted with flowers instead. Members of Selborne Bowling Club recently took time out from their bowling championship match, being held on the club's bowling green behind Ye Olde Cherry Tree pub in Southgate, to plant up the horse trough in the green. They were keen to brighten up this part of Southgate opposite their club. The horse and cattle trough at the green is fairly typical. Made from granite 3 metres long, it has a drinking fountain at one end and a water trough below for dogs and sheep. The trough was installed by the Metropolitan Drinking Fountain and Cattle Trough Association in 1886 at a cost of £50 and was paid for by public subscription. This association was set up in 1859 by Samuel Gurney MP to provide free, clean drinking water and support animal welfare. In the 19th century, London was short of public drinking water fountains and cattle drinking troughs. There was a need to provide clean sources of water in urban areas to meet the needs of horses, transporting goods, and for cattle and sheep being driven into central London on market days. The supply of clean drinking water was of major concern. There was a cholera epidemic in 1854, and London's growing population put increasing pressure on the supply of clean drinking water. Beer had been a safer alternative to drinking contaminated water, and to counter this, the temperance movement encouraged the installation of public drinking water fountains located opposite public houses and coaching inns. Troughs were funded by public donations and by wealthy philanthropic patrons, together with support from the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, RSPCA. By 1879, there were 800 troughs supplying the needs of over 50,000 horses in London. Drinking troughs were the petrol stations of the 19th century, commonly located adjacent to coaching inns, such as Ye Olde Cherry Tree. The troughs were a vital element to facilitate transport, and patrons at private establishments were expected to pay for this service or to use the inn. Notice is usually stated, all that water their horses here must pay a penny or have some beer. In 1916, as petrol-driven motoring replaced horse-drawn transport, the installation of water troughs ceased.
The next item, again, is from the Enfield Independent, and it features a picture of a black bin. The heading is "Anger as Bin Collections Petition is Rejected," and the article is written by James Cracknell. Enfield Council has rejected a petition signed by more than 6,000 people because it says it cannot verify they are local residents. The Bin the New Bin Collections petition was launched in March by Palmer's Green resident Helen Blairman in reaction to the council's plan to switch to fortnightly collections for both general waste and recycling. Council guidelines state that any petition which amasses support from 1% of the borough population, which is deemed currently to be 3,124 people, will be debated at a full meeting of the council. While it also says petitions can be rejected if they do not include the addresses of the signatories. Helen says that she has submitted postcodes to the council for verification. Helen said, "We've got twice as many signatures as we need for a debate, but the council has moved the goalposts on the regulations for submitting petitions, saying they must now include addresses and emails. This is lunacy. I've got postcodes for every signatory." Comments made online reveal anger and irritation at the cavalier and dismissive way that this matter has been managed by the council. People in Enfield are extremely unhappy about the lack of either consultation or willingness to discuss a compromise. OK, we are all transparently aware of the council's need to make savings, but genuinely feel that this blanket decision is out of touch with the feelings of the electorate. The council is already facing severe criticism over its changes to bin collections, with former Deputy Leader Daniel Anderson describing the public consultation last December and January as being a sham and a fiasco, after the council chose to proceed with the least popular option. The changes, due to be introduced from November, are expected to save £2 million and will also include a weekly food waste service and £65 charge for garden waste collection. A councillor spokesperson has said the lead petitioner has been informed that the petition was not accepted as it does not meet the requirements of Enfield Council's published petition scheme, which was approved by the full council in 2017. The petition scheme specifies that petitions presented to the local authority must include the addresses of everyone who has signed the document. In the case of the Bin the New Bin Collections petition, this is not the case, and addresses have not been provided. Officers from the scrutiny team are happy to meet the lead petitioners to discuss ways in which this can be taken forward.
All under one roof. Ruth Winston Centre's Vice Chair of Trustees describes the charity's work. Retirement is not the ending of something, but rather the beginning of what can be a whole new life. It is an opportunity to do those things that you have always wanted to do, but have never had the time. Retirement is an adventure. Ruth Winston Centre in Palmer's Green provides plenty of opportunities to keep older people occupied. It is not a daycare centre, but a vibrant, modern and self-contained community hub offering people aged 50 and over a wide variety of services, as well as a meeting place to socialise and learn new skills. It was originally set up as a charity in the 1950s, largely thanks to the efforts of then Mayor of Southgate, Ruth Winston, who raised the funds needed to buy the property and dedicated the building to the welfare of the elderly. Situated at 190 Green Lanes, the centre has been welcoming senior citizens from across Enfield for nearly 60 years, offering good company, food, companionship, fitness and education. An open day is being held at the centre on Tuesday the 24th of September and will showcase its various activities. There will be an opportunity for a tour of the centre and to see for yourself the activities and facilities offered. As statutory funding is no longer available, the charity needs to raise funds from bazaars, quizzes and other events. Ideas are always welcome. Liz Thorey, the centre manager, said, "Over the years it has been possible to increase the facilities for clubs and other organisations meeting at the centre to provide support to voluntary groups." Activities hosted at Ruth Winston from Monday to Friday include Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, line dancing, art class, a book club, drama group, bridge, and a computers for beginners class. We also have a resident hairdresser, chiropodist, and bereavement counsellor. The community cafe runs Monday to Friday, enabling visitors to have a cup of coffee, play Scrabble, and be entertained.
This is about arts and culture, and it's headed up Performing with Glee. Giuliana Rubinia from Edmonton Community Partnership on a project that celebrates local talent. Amidst the negative stories and issues plaguing Edmonton at present, Edmonton Glee is a program that positively changes the lives of many of the children and young people in the area. This is the flagship annual event for local charity Edmonton Community Partnership, ECP, and the finals took place last month at Hackney Empire, showcasing the talents of more than 300 Edmonton children and young people. The project gives disadvantaged children the opportunity to experience the world of performing arts in an inclusive, safe and engaging way. Children who ordinarily wouldn't have the opportunity to dance, sing and act on stage get to develop new skills under the talented guidance of Pineapple Performing Arts School tutors, perform in a London theatre and show the world what they can do. But that's not all. Children and young adults have the chance to win life-changing scholarships with Pineapple Performing Arts so they can continue living their dream. Edmonton Glee brings together 19 primary, secondary and special schools within Edmonton, one of the country's most deprived areas. Pineapple provides each school with 16 weeks tuition in singing, dancing and drama, which culminates in the grand final performance. It is fully inclusive and vulnerable children are encouraged to take part, including those with disabilities, special educational needs, and those who are excluded or at risk of exclusion from school. The programme has a profound impact on the lives of many children. It exposes them to new possibilities and opportunities, helps to re-engage students with school, learn new skills, build confidence and self-esteem, provide opportunities to meet new people, work as a team and make friends. The biggest emphasis is on fun, while our annual event showcases the most amazing talent that otherwise might have gone unmarked, unnoticed. Our sponsor is a philanthropist, Sir Harry McGrath, and he, alongside the generosity of the funded scholarships provided by Pineapple Performing Arts, has allowed this programme to continue, flourish, and provide a lasting legacy. Maggie Peterson, principal at Pineapple Performing Arts School, said, "We are proud to be facilitators for the amazing Edmonton Glee project. The raw talent and enthusiasm at every school is incredible, from the classroom every week to the final showcase at Hackney Empire. Our teachers absolutely love helping and seeing the confidence grow in all the children taking part. We have awarded scholarships to a variety of individuals across the age groups to join our summer schools in musical theatre and street dance. We can't wait to see them develop their skills and talents even more. The skills and confidence gained and memories made from this year's Edmonton Glee will have a lasting impact on many of our local children and community."
The next item is headed up with a beautiful picture of Broomfield Park. And again, it is connected with the arts. The article says, all the people, and David Williams from Friends of Broomfield Park looks ahead to a new community-led arts festival in Palmer's Green. He says, "Our communities are full of creativity and talent. Broomfield Park is one of the most popular parks in Enfield. A group of local volunteers is using these two ingredients to create the recipe for Park Life Arts Weekend, which runs later this month. As Friends of Broomfield Park, we want to spark imagination and creativity, foster greater engagement between local community groups, and develop a sense of ownership of the park as a resource for collective enjoyment. Park life begins on the night of Friday the 12th of July, so in fact in about 8 days' time, and shows how an old bowling green can be brought back to life. Our launch event, Gin and Latin Dance Cocktails, features local gin distillers, Old Bakery Gin from Bowes, hampers from local caterer Splendor and Sparkle, and live music from the Renaissance Piano Shop in Middleton Road. And, of course, dancing into the night, led by Heather Ross of Selectricity. Local storytellers start Saturday's events, including an old favourite, We're Going on a Bear Hunt, played out for preschool children in locations around the park. We also bring to life 2 new stories, Palmer's Grin, created and told by local raconteur Andrew Jelling, and marking the 50th anniversary of the Apollo moon landings, and its title is Astro Girl, and it's created and told by Southgate's popular children's author Alex Wolff. Saturday afternoon features local voices and involves Enfield Community Choir, led by Simon Gilbert, the award-winning St Anne's Children's Choir, led by Marsha Morrison, and Our Voices, led by Richard Forbes. Also, on Saturday, one of Enfield's creative gems, Chicken Shed Theatre, performed their family-friendly Tales from the Shed on tour, which follows a week's run in Hyde Park Saturday night events, with a galaxy of local talent, lighting the night sky, organised by musicians Ruth and David Buckwell from that Blue Patch. Sunday morning is a time to relax, body and mind, with yoga teacher Penny Austin in the community orchard, Tai Chi with John Merrill by the lakes, and creative well-being led by Anna Maria Popova at the bowling green. Breakfast follows with sourdough craft bread from Holt White's Bakery here in Enfield, and honey from the bees at Broomfield Orchard. Park Life Weekend closes with more rhythm and dance throughout the afternoon surrounding the Palmer's Greenery Cafe, and it encourages old and young people to get to their feet and to dance.
Transport for London boss, I'd happily live on the Underground. Commuters should not be concerned for risk to their health. A Transport for London boss has dismissed the dangers of air pollution on the tube, saying he'd happily live on the Underground 24 hours a day. Rickard Moan, head of occupational health at Transport for London, said commuters should not be concerned about a risk to their health. Research by the transport body has found that while there are higher levels of dust on the tube than above ground, its chemical makeup does not appear to be seriously harmful. Speaking at a meeting of the London Assembly's Environment Committee, Mr Moan said Transport for London was confident that its employees were not becoming ill as a result of working underground. And if TfL workers are not at risk, then commuters who spend comparatively short periods on the network should not be worried, according to Mr Moan. He said, from a health perspective, there is no imminent health risk, and there hasn't been, but we are continuing to review that. He added, our evidence is solid and very reassuring. I'd happily live on the Underground 24 hours a day. I would have no concern about that at all. Air pollution is measured by assessing the amount of particulate matter, tiny molecules of dust, found in the air. The smallest particles are potentially the most hazardous because they penetrate deeper into the lungs when breathed in and can pass into the bloodstream. But while smaller particles have the potential to be more harmful, this is only a significant problem if the substances in the air are toxic. Peter McNaught, Director of Asset Operations at TfL, told the committee that unlike above ground, there is no evidence that most small particles on the tube are carcinogenic. The majority of particulate matter on the tube is iron oxide from the rails and train wheels, which has not been shown to harm humans, he said. Dr. Jenny Mindell, a professor at University College London's Department of Public Health, said that air on the tube is not more dangerous than at street level, as many commuters believe. She said, it's an urban myth that it's worse, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't be trying to reduce both of them. Just because A is better or worse than B doesn't mean that there might not be some harm from both.
I have two little articles here, both about our health and well-being. One is headed up Walking to Work. New guidance from NICE suggesting that every workplace promote physical activity couldn't have come sooner. We work with businesses around the UK, encouraging walking to, from, and during the working day. We see staff reap huge benefits from being more physically active, both to their physical and mental health. Employees, in turn, witness higher productivity levels and reduce absenteeism. NICE's recommendation that parents be encouraged to walk or cycle children to school is also vital if we want to reduce childhood obesity and cut pollution outside school gates. We would urge local authorities to act on this advice and make our streets safer and more attractive to encourage more parents to walk their children to school. That was written by Stephen Edwards, the Director of Policy and Communications, Living Streets. The other one is about the Over 50s Forum. They're holding an event to draw attention to the number of older people suffering falls. More than 1,000 Enfield residents, aged 65 and over, were taken to hospital last year following a fall in the street or at home. Because of this, the Over 50s Forum is holding a free Focus on Falls event at Edmonton Leisure Centre on Monday, afraid it was in June 17th. New figures released by the NHS reveal that in the year ending March 2019, 330 over 65s were admitted as inpatients to local hospitals after fracturing their hips, knees or wrists. Another 676 elderly people were treated as A&E casualties as a result of a fall, making a total 1,006 patients. Forum President Monty Metz said 1 in 3 people over 65 can expect to have a fall this year. Our answer to this gloomy outlook is to hold an upbeat day of music, dancing, advice and information aimed at helping people to stay fit and healthy. The Edmonton Leisure Centre event will include folk dancing, tai chi and walking football, plus advice on diabetes, bone health and blood pressure checks. There will be a free raffle and a jazz band.
The next item is again from the Enfield Independent, and it's really a bit sad. It's headed up High Street Fixture Set to Move Online. The subheading says, the chocolate shop has traded for 37 years. Rising rents and business rates, coupled with dwindling footfall, have forced a high street fixture online. The chocolate shop has been trading in Station Parade, Cockfosters, for 37 years. But this family-run confectioner will close on Christmas Eve, as its owners say they just cannot afford to stay open. Owner David Lee said that a combination of falling trade, a new lease and revised business rates made it hard to make a profit. He said, business rates are colossal now. We were promised reductions, but they never happened. There were also problems with parking. We will continue our online business, but it is the end of an era. And in fact, of course, that is what so many other people are finding. The shop was opened 37 years ago, that is to say in 1982, by Mr. Lee's mother and father, and it was originally a franchise of Leonardi's chocolates, a well-known Belgian chocolate brand. After losing the franchise, the family decided to source the chocolates themselves from Belgium, and they also were expanding into giftware and later furnishings. And at one point, it had a coffee shop that seated 30 people. Today, it's run by Mr. Lee's aunt, Jackie Lindley, who's 72 years old, and specialises in high-quality confectionery. It also creates its own unique arrangement, chocolate boxes, platters and ornamental items. Mr. Lee spoke about the difficulties facing small retailers in general, and they were having problems staying open, with spiralling costs and decreased footfall being the main factors. He said that about 4 years ago, we started the online business, and in recent years, the online business side of the business has grown, where the retail side has decreased, as indeed it has for most retailers, big or small.
And now for a sporting item. Spurs complete the capture of Clark from Leeds United. Tottenham Hotspur have made their first new signing since January 2018 after completing a £10 million deal for Leeds United's Jack Clark. The winger has signed a 4-year contract but has immediately returned to Ellen Road on a season-long loan. Tottenham decided to loan him back to Leeds so he can continue his development for another year. He went straight back to the Championship club after signing his contract to start pre-season training. The 18-year-old becomes the first signing made by Mauricio Pochettino's men since they recruited Lucas Moura from Paris Saint-Germain 1.5 years ago. Clark told the Spurs website, "I'm delighted to join Tottenham, and in the short term I'll be giving my all to hopefully help Leeds win promotion." Leeds stated on their website, "Everyone at Leeds United would like to thank Jack for his efforts whilst at the club, and we wish him every success for the future." When speaking about the decision to return to the Whites on loan, Clark added, "I'm excited to get going again, and I can't wait for the new season to start. It was a no-brainer to come back, and the option was always there. I think it would be a lot better for my progression to spend another year here, and I didn't feel right leaving with how last season finished." He continued, "Marcelo Bielsa has brought me along a lot as a player, and I think this season will be even better getting another full campaign under him. Physically, I felt I developed a lot by playing professional football, and I've improved my movements, which has brought me on massively." Last year, he made 25 appearances for Leeds and scored his first goal with a stunning solo effort against Aston Villa, but only started 5 games. His performances led him to be named the club's Young Player of the Year. Spurs were also close to completing a deal for Lyon's French midfielder Tanguy Ndombele, as this newspaper went to press. It has been reported that a fee has been agreed between the two parties, expected to be around £55 million, rising to £63 million with bonuses. The move eclipses the club's current record transfer fee, which stands at the £42 million they paid Ajax for Sanchez in 2017. A 5-year contract is thought to have been agreed with the midfielder. Although an exact figure for the wages is not known, it's set to be a significant increase on his reported current salary of between £50,000 to £60,000 a week.
This article is called Call to Use Funds to Tackle Violent Crime. Mayor spends on staff, campaigns and culture. Sadiq Khan has faced attacks from a Conservative politician over his policing budget following a spate of violent deaths in the capital. London Assembly member Andrew Boff said the mayor had chosen to spend on City Hall staff, campaigns and culture rather than putting more police on the streets. Speaking on Sunday Politics London, he highlighted the £11 million spent on increasing staff at City Hall, £3 million on PR campaigns and £500,000 spent on a beach party in Newham since the mayor took office. He was speaking after a series of violent attacks in the capital left 5 dead in 6 days. The Conservative group at City Hall believes the mayor could have saved more than £82 million in this year's budget, funding almost 1,400 more police officers in London. Mr. Khan announced a £234 million increase in police funding to help tackle violence in February. But speaking to the LDR service, Mr. Boff said the mayor was making a political choice not to fund more police officers. He said the annoyance is when there is one of these tragic events happens. The mayor has a knee-jerk reaction to blame the government. It's getting to the point where if it wasn't such a serious thing, it would be a joke, because that's his go-to. But the mayor's office dismissed the Conservative group's claims, emphasising the importance of culture spending as part of a long-term strategy to provide young people with alternatives to crime. The mayor's team also refuted claims that spending on marketing and staff has been unjustified. Mr. Carr's spend on marketing staff has increased by 10% over the course of his term, compared to a 33% rise under Boris Johnson between 2013 and 2016. Staffing costs at City Hall also increased most years under the Conservative mayoralty, and higher costs under the current mayor in part reflect newly devolved powers, requiring extra staff to implement them. A spokesperson for Mr. Khan said this so-called plan from the Conservatives would in reality mean massive cuts to schemes that are stopping young people turning to violent crime in the first place, tackling toxic air pollution and helping get homeless people off the streets. It is a gimmick solely designed to distract attention from the huge government cuts to the police and youth services since 2010.
The next item is headed up Generous Pupils Help Air Ambulance to Keep Flying. School children in Hornsey have held 2 charity days in support of a life-saving pilot who is set to swim the English Channel later this year. Captain Andrew Thompson, who's aged 40, from North London, is a pilot at London's Air Ambulance, and he is swimming the Channel in support of the charity. It costs £10 million each year to ensure that London Air Ambulance has an advanced trauma team ready to respond to critical injuries, and this is available 24/7, and funds are needed to to be raised through donations. In support of his swim, St Mary's C of E Primary School have raised over £3,000 that will go directly towards London's air ambulance. The school held cake sales, a Wear Red Day, don't quite sure what that means, and hosted an assembly where Andrew spoke to the children. Father of two, Andrew, says London's air ambulance is available day and night all over London. It is a sad fact that anyone could need our help at any time. And of course, we do sometimes attend traumatically injured children. The money raised will go directly towards helping us deliver a life-saving service.
Hospital homes planned. At least 200 homes will be built on a hospital car park after the site was bought by the Mayor of London. Sadiq Khan bought a 1.4 hectare site at North Middlesex University Hospital in Edmonton for £12.8 million, using money from a £250 million pot set aside for tackling London's housing crisis. The site currently comprises a car park, offices and hospital testing facilities, which will be relocated to other parts of the hospital. It was previously owned by Locat ED, a government agency delivering the Academy Schools programme, but no plans materialised. The Mayor now hopes to build more than 200 homes there, starting in 2022, with half provided as genuinely affordable. James Murray, Deputy Mayor for Housing, said, under Sadiq, City Hall is taking a more active approach to unlocking sites across the capital. We're using the land fund he established to buy sites like this in Enfield, where we will build genuinely affordable homes while protecting healthcare for the community. A hospital spokesman said facilities will be relocated to other parts of our hospital to ensure there is no loss of services. The car park is designated for staff use only. However, in response to complaints that football fans have begun using the hospital car park since the opening of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in April, they added, "We are in close liaison with the community team at Spurs to review and agree a way forward in resolving the matter ahead of the 2019-20 season. We are also considering alternatives for our car users in order to provide them with additional parking spaces on match days."
This is an article headed 2 million going hungry. 1 in 4 in capital face food poverty. Almost 2 million Londoners are struggling to put food on the table, a study has found. 1 in 4 people in the capital are facing food insecurity, with 400,000 children affected, according to research commissioned by the Mayor's office. Food insecurity means a person either cannot afford enough food or cannot access it. For example, not being physically able to go to the shops. Londoners may rely on food banks, but other measures include cutting down on portion sizes, or skipping meals to save money, or not being able to afford a balanced diet. Those with the lowest incomes were worst impacted, but the data also revealed that the majority of those struggling to feed themselves were in work, with 60% employed on a full-time or a part-time basis. 1 in 6 parents in the capital are struggling to provide food for their families, meaning almost 500,000 children across London are going hungry. The study also revealed that some parents are feeding their children but failing to look after themselves, demonstrating the sacrifices mums and dads are making for their families. Anna Taylor, Executive Director of food think tank, the Food Foundation, said the impact for children was far-reaching. She said, food insecurity is hindering the growth of our children, crippling their confidence and making it impossible to learn and develop. The Mayor's study also found minority groups in London are worst impacted by food insecurity. Black communities were worst hit, with 39% of adults facing difficulty feeding themselves, compared to just 15% of white Brits. LGBT adults and disabled adults are also more vulnerable than their peers. Young people are also more likely to struggle, with 31% of 16 to 24-year-olds impacted, according to the data. London Mayor Sadiq Khan said that the new Prime Minister must act to tackle food insecurity and reverse the impact of austerity. He said, "It is simply unacceptable that in a city as wealthy as London, there are still millions of people regularly going without the food they need."
This is quite a brief item from Enfield Dispatch, and it's headed up Ward Boundary Changes. Enfield's political ward boundaries are set to change, and the Local Government Boundary Commission for England is asking for feedback. A review has recommended redrawing the borough's 21 existing wards and creating 5 new ones, although, of course, with many wards subsequently electing just 2 representatives instead of 3, but the borough would still be represented by 63 councillors in total. Existing wards, including Turkey Street, Chase, Enfield Highway, Southgate Green and Southbury, would be renamed and replaced with new wards such as Bullsmoor, Whitewebs, Ridgeway, Oakwood, Hoe Lane, Kingsmead, Raglan and Arnos Grove, and residents have until the 5th of August to submit their views on the proposals.
Poverty Commission launched. An independent commission tasked with tackling poverty and inequality has been launched by Enfield Council. The wide-ranging commission will aim to investigate the factors driving poverty in the borough and provide recommendations to help local residents deal with the challenges it poses. Council leader Nezil Kaliskan said the Enfield Poverty and Inequality Commission was a positive step in tackling the root causes of poverty and inequality in Enfield. Local residents are being urged to support the Commission by sharing their own personal experiences and struggles at designated drop-in facilities which will be set up at Enfield Civic Centre and local libraries over the summer. Councillor Kaliskan said it will not be an easy task, but it is a vital one, and one that we are absolutely committed to solving. I would urge residents to get in touch to tell their stories of what it is like to live with poverty in Enfield, to help support the Commission and help it come up with recommendations which enable us to tackle this vital issue. The Commission will be chaired by Baroness Tyler of Enfield, a long-time advocate of social policy reform and current co-chair of an all-party parliamentary group on social mobility. She said, "I'm honoured to be chairing the Enfield Poverty and Inequality Commission. Listen to the different communities in Enfield will give us a better understanding of the challenges many people face and give us an opportunity to make recommendations which will support local people who need a helping hand to reach their full potential." Representatives from both national and local organisations, such as the Housing Charity Shelter and Barnet, Enfield and Haringey Mental Health Trust, plus head teachers from local primary and secondary schools, will work alongside Baroness Tyler. Barrett Meetar, Chief Executive of Trust for London, an independent charity which finds voluntary work aimed at tackling poverty, has backed the Commission. He said, "Unfortunately, too many Londoners lack the resources to make ends meet. This is true in Enfield, with 27% of residents living in poverty after their housing costs are taken into account. That is why we welcome this new Poverty and Inequality Commission. We hope the range of local organisations that will be working together will be able to tackle the issues faced by those living in the borough. Enfield Poverty and Inequality Commission will run from now until November, with a final report due to be published in December."
This is an article about Haringey Council, and it's headed up Abandoned Housing Project to Help Families in Need. Haringey Council should scrap a major regeneration deal and focus on housing thousands of homeless people, a housing campaigner has said. Reverend Paul Nicholson, founder of Campaign Troop Taxpayers Against Poverty, has called on the council to scrap the High Road West scheme in Tottenham, a £1 billion deal with private developer Lend Lease. The council last year pulled the plug on the Haringey development vehicle, a £2 billion regeneration scheme with Lend Lease, after unveiling its own plans to build 1,000 homes at council rents. But the High Road West scheme is still set to go ahead, meaning around 180 families on the nearby Love Lane estate and dozens of businesses on the Peacock Industrial Estate could be moved out of the area. There are currently more than 3,600 households in temporary accommodation, which is used to house people who have become homeless in Haringey. Speaking at a meeting of the Housing and Regeneration Scrutiny Panel on Monday, June the 10th, Reverend Nicholson blasted successive governments, Tory and Labour, for letting land values soar beyond the means of people on low and middle incomes to rent or buy. He said, "I see in Tottenham that the policies of a national government are making men, women and children hungry, homeless, mentally and physically ill, and shortening their lives. Land is torn by the powerful and wealthy from under the homes of council tenants and from leaseholders and freeholders by compulsory purchase orders in what is called regeneration. An answer must be to control the increase in the value of land. Land is a gift of nature intended for work and for homes for all." Reverend Nicholson claimed the council could do more to help people in temporary accommodation, ensuring housing is fit for human habitation and people are not put in homes owned by landlords who are about to be repossessed or planning to enter the buy-to-let market. He added, We would recommend that you abandon the High Road West project because it makes the insuperable housing problems worse by reducing the number of truly affordable homes to rent on the market. The council will either have to spend the money on buying out Lend-Lease or on housing homeless families in temporary accommodation. Homeless families were moved into the Love Lane estate on a temporary basis and face being moved on again when the homes are knocked down. Reverend Nicholson claimed the council could turn 180 temporary tenancies into secure tenancies on the Love Lane estate overnight, simply by notifying tenants of the change. The scrutiny panel does not have the power to make decisions on major regeneration schemes, but councillors pledged to take on board the concerns raised by Reverend Nicholson. Councillor Ermine Ibrahim, Cabinet Member for Housing and Estate Renewal, said, "I completely agree with much of what Reverend Nicholson said, but appreciate your recognition that we are in a very difficult position. Local authorities are facing a stark situation in terms of a national housing crisis that is also far more acute in London and Haringey." Councillor Ibrahim said the council had provided emergency accommodation for homeless families at places such as Broadwater Lodge, and this was an improvement on the type of housing that used to be offered to homeless families in dire need. She added, "We will never force a family to accept a property that is not fit for habitation. What we are trying to do is come to a position whereby we make sure the people there currently will have some level of security in the coming years." Due for completion in 2030, the High Road West scheme is expected to provide 2,500 homes with a minimum of 30% classed as affordable.
The next item is quite brief, and it says, "New trains welcomed." Enfield North MP Joan Ryan has welcomed the arrival of new trains on a key commuter route, but is still calling for the line to be taken out of private hands. The Change UK MP said new air-conditioned six-carriage Great Northern trains with space for an extra 100 passengers would greatly improve journeys along the Hertford Loop line into Moorgate. While only a few new 717 trains are running so far, the full £240 million fleet will be introduced by the end of the year, and they will be serving Cruise Hill, Gordon Hill, Enfield Chase, Grange Park, Winchmore Hill and Palmer's Green stations. Joan Ryan says, "I've been calling on rail bosses at Great Northern to deliver a fleet of brand new trains, so I'm pleased to see that at last the rolling stock is starting to be operated on the line." However, residents continue to complain about the frequency of the services and indeed the performance, and that's why I'm urging government ministers to devolve these services to Transport for London. Polling has shown there's a vast majority of public support for TfL to be given control, and I believe this will be the most effective way to secure a more frequent, reliable and affordable train service that is in the best interests of Enfield's commuters.
We've reached the end of our programme for this week. Thank you for listening. So from the team of Geoffrey, Joan and Colin, and Hass on the controls, it's Goodbye. Please remember to turn over the address label in your postal packet. Put the memory stick into the packet in a closed position and return it to us as soon as possible in readiness for the next edition. Don't forget, you can call Diane de Jersey regarding any help you may require in connection with Enfield Talking Newspaper on 0208 805 6578. Coming up next, the latest news and information for the Greater London area from Infrasound. The Enfield Talking Newspaper will be with you again in 1 week's time.